Hey guys, my name is Eric, and today we're going to be talking about one of the best intro sniper rifles you can get on the market. Go ahead and roll the intro. Hey guys, my name is Eric, and thanks for checking out another HatchetCast episode. And I have here with me Adrian from Sidewinder Concepts to talk about the Ruger Precision Rifle, or the RPR. This one is in 308, and I have a ton of exciting things to talk about, specifically with Adrian and with Nick, who are going to talk about their experiences with the rifle, and then I'll talk about a little bit of my experiences with some cool features that we have about this rifle specifically at the end of the video. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. Also, go check out Sidewinder Concepts on YouTube and check out Adrian's channel, so that way you guys can get all good kinds of information about distance shooting. If you have a RPR at home or have different mods that you've done with your RPR, comment them below or let us know your experiences with the Ruger Precision Rifle. So, without further ado, Adrian and Nick is behind the camera, so we'll
He's
have him come on.
he's got quite the intro nailed in.
Yeah. All right, so full disclosure, Ruger did send me this rifle to test out and to try, and the first person I thought of whenever I was looking at this thing was you, because of your
Thank you.
background in
Thank you.
long-range shooting, and also you're a long-range shooting instructor.
Yes.
So it was something that I've always been eyeballing the RPR for a long time, strictly because as far as price point, which is what I'm sure most people are probably going to wonder, is really good for a precision bolt gun. All right, so on Ruger's website for MSRP, this rifle is around 1,900 bucks. However, if you go on other websites like Cabela's or some other major outlets, sometimes you can find them for $1,500, or if you get it used, you can find them for even lower than that. So as far as price point within the bolt gun world, how big of a difference is that?
It's huge just because when you're starting out in the bolt gun world, you don't really know what you don't know. So you're trying to figure out what's the best gun, what's the best optic, because you're going to be spending a lot of money up front. So you really want to make sure that you kind of get the most affordable thing you can at the time, just to kind of get the most experience that you can. You got to afford ammo because ammo's expensive too.
Yeah.
So, just getting into it that way, it's crucial.
Yeah, and I mean, essentially, we're starting to see price points all right around that same point, being that 15 to 1900-ish range.
Right.
And it really comes down to what features are being introduced within that price range. And
Right.
some other big competitors, are we allowed to say the other big competitors?
I mean, sure, I think we all know about who they are.
Yeah, so like you got the Seekins Havoc and you got the Solus rifle, we got the Daniel Defense. They're all in that general area. So, where does this fit in? And I
Right.
think honestly, I think it does fit in quite well when you look at the amount of features that are packed into this particular package. There's like one or two things that I would change, but other than that, this thing is a pretty phenomenal rifle. I've owned them. I've had it as a rental gun. I know Nick owns one currently, and things like that. And we'll break into some of those key features for sure.
Yeah. So the two types of, or the two major types of calibers that these rifles are in is 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor, but they also have scaled down versions for training for like a 22, or they also have scaled up versions for bigger caliber.
Which is one of the cool things that I'm super impressed with these RPRs, is because it has generally the same feature, like profile.
Yeah.
They just blew it up a little bit, and it goes all the way from, like you said, the short action calibers up to 338 Lapua Magnum. And again, it's pretty awesome. And if I'm not mistaken, the 338 Lapua Magnum, for anybody that wants to shoot the mini missiles, is still generally in that same price range. It's not terribly different from the other variants.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier at the cost point too, like it's the aftermarket support for this is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
So as you shoot this out of the box, you figure out the things that you like and that you don't like. So the aftermarket support with it to get accessories for it as well is super strong. So it just makes it that much better to customize it to yourself because you're going to figure out once you're shooting it the things that you wanted to kind of modify and change here and there. So
So let's break into some of the design. There's a lot of features I noticed on here, like AR style parts and things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature. So let's start from, the very tip of it all the way working our way back about things and features that really make this rifle stand out.
As far as the barrel goes, this is a heavy contour. It looks like from like a Sendero style platform. So 20-inch 308, and that's kind of the standard and most common off-the-shelf setup. These barrels have always been very accurate for me. I have zero complaints. So between the Ruger America and this RPR, currently I haven't seen any issues with the barrels. The barrels are AR style where, once you get that barrel nut off, you just slide it right in there and then, torque it down and all that good stuff. So there is a big aftermarket um, um, capability for barrels. So guys that want to replace them, they want to make longer ones, they want carbon fiber, they want different calibers. There's a huge capability with that.
so the rail's great too because it's got what's this M lock on the bottom, so you can put ARCA on there if you want it, which is really nice because having an attached ARCA to the rail is cool until we've seen you start going on props and you start dinging that ARCA rail up. So the
Mm-hmm.
option to be able to replace your ARCA rail on the bottom when it
Yep.
gets damaged is huge. It just makes it that much easier instead of having to afford a whole new rail for it. So they can
Right.
just go ahead and just replace that ARCA plate.
And generally, an integrated ARCA rail is ARCA rail onto a handguard rail is going to be more pricey than just a standard handguard to begin with.
Yeah. Other options, yeah. So like Seekins, I believe, makes the replacement rail for this as well. So what it'll do is it'll change the design of it to where the bottom is just flat, but also accepts M-LOK too. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do the same thing with that Arca rail.
It's
Just
wider.
Yep, it's wider, so it's gonna better sit on a shooting bag or a platform that you may not be as stable on too. So
Nice.
yep, it's really nice.
All right, so when it comes to the receiver, this particular area is what's pretty cool in my opinion. Um, this entire design is a receiver set with the bolt that runs right through it. So we see this on the Barrett MRAD, and everybody loves the Barrett MRAD. This is two sandwich plates with a couple bolts, and then the bolt action. This is clear. The bolt action itself, where the bolt just rides into the receiver. So it's not an action style like we see with traditional bolt guns that sits into a chassis. This is the chassis. It's all in one type thing. As we transition down, the one of my favorite parts about this whole entire rifle, and if I'm not mistaken, is the only rifle on the market that does this, but it accepts both AICS and SR25 mags into this mag well without having to change any parts out.
Wow.
So it's just whatever's on your belt or in your chest rig at the moment. So in this case, if you wanted a 25 round, or a 30 round SR25 mag, you can run that. If you want to go more low profile with a AICS style, single stack 10 round mag, you can do that. And if you want to just be, a little extra, you can run one of those D60 mags,
The
those drum
drum.
mags underneath there as a bolt gun. So, but options are great. You get to choose what you want to do.
I'm not gonna lie, when I first got this thing, I stuck the AICS mag in there and I was like, I think this fits.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I
It
was
was
like, what in
it
the
was designed to do that,
Yeah.
which is amazing, and it uses the same
lever.
lever as
Yeah.
well. So it's not nothing special over here for this mag versus the other mag, because the AICS mag latch is on the back side, which is with the SR25 style. They're on the side,
Right.
and this actuates both,
Wow.
which is a beautiful thing. The other great thing is that this comes integrated with a 20 MOA rail on there, so
Right.
you don't have to go and order a second rail scope base to get that articulation. Like, this thing is just ready to go. The last thing, no, two more things. 3 more things.
Jeez,
There's a lot of
Christ.
there's a lot of
There's
things
so
on
many
this.
features.
There's so many features on here. If you are a guy that is going from an AR platform and jumping into the bolt gun realm, this has so many similarities to an AR-10. The big one being right here. This has got a AR-10, AR-15 style safety on here, which most bolt guns have it way up here by the bolt. So
Right.
this just right back to the same ergonomics and mechanics that we're already used to with those gas guns. Um, from there, we have up here. So a lot of people have talked about how ugly this little curvature is, and even I was guilty of this until I realized what it was for. So this was actually cut specifically to fit perfectly with your hand as you guys are carrying it down on the side of your body. For all of us who have like moved through the woods, or trekking around with a heavier rifle, or transitioning from stage to stage, and we're going through that rifleman's carry with it along the side of our body. We know that that 90-degree angle tends to get a little uncomfortable with that big square edge holding onto that with our hands, and this cutout was specifically designed for that, and is become the most comfortable rifle I have ever rifle carried on the side right there. And then the last thing is this uses AR pattern parts. Yeah, the grips, the pistol grips. So you can change that out to um, different grips that are more comfortable. On mine, I ran the vertical ergo grips with a heavier palm swell, and man, did it perform great.
Yeah, make it really comfortable for when you're in those shooting positions and stuff. So
It's just tons and tons of features. And this was one of the first ones out there before chassis guns really started becoming a thing. This guy has been out there, and it's still performing to this day.
yeah, still at all kinds of PRS events and everything. Like these things are still killing it for sure. Especially with that buffer tube, it uses a standard buffer tube, so you can change to, PRS butt stock. You can do the PRS. I know Adrian likes the PRS light stock
Yep.
on there. You can change out different bag riders if you want to make sure you get a good stable bagging position. Butt stocks, just anything as far as that with a side folder from the factory,
Yes.
and that's huge. Most times having a side folder is a nice thing, but you can't always include it in
Well,
stock.
most companies that offer that a side folder as a chassis option are going upwards of $200 to
Right.
$300.
Yeah.
So you might be paying 1,000 plus for a chassis, and then you're going to spend another $300-ish on just the folder itself, and
Right.
we're getting close to the price of this complete rifle at that point.
Yeah. Well, especially too with that folder too. It's sometimes they have a little slack in there because the name of the game in precision is to just have everything solid.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't have any deviation in anything. And this is just a super solid lockup as well. So it's just designed really well for a gun of its caliber.
So that's something, yeah, I definitely noticed when I was seeing specifically the side folder. That caught my eye because I was like, man, I can pack this into my bag. I can make it super compact. And the fact it had a side folder that was rigid and like solid, and the button wasn't hard to push,
Nope.
that was huge for me. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about this, but what about the trigger?
The trigger's nice. Of course, it's got the pre-travel on it. So
Like
once
the
you
safety.
yeah, the pre-travel safety, so it kind of preps your finger for it. And again, new shooters that are get into the PRS and stuff, it kind of preps you for the trigger pull, right? So once you get to it, you kind of feel where it's at, gauge where you need to put pressure, and once you get to that trigger, it's crisp. It's for a stock gun. It's got a nice clean break, and it just feels good. It feels great.
All right, so continuing to the back end of this rifle, we have this highly adjustable stock. This was, again, this rifle came out a while ago, so in comparison to what we see now, it might be a little outdated, we'll say, but it still features a ton of adjustments. So we have length of pull, we have the cheek riser. It's a skeletonized design. It's low profile. You have Picatinny on the bottom, so you can add extra features on there if you'd like. You can add spacers if you're a taller guy and you need even more length of pull. But if you wanted to run your own stock, again, this is a carbine buffer tube that's underneath here. So essentially, it's just pull all these gizmos off. You don't even need to release the castle nut. Just take all this stuff off, and it's a standard carbine buffer tube. The way that I ran this was with the PRS light on here, and it pretty much, if you're not paying attention, it looks like an AR-10 at that point.
Oh wow, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one thing I did is I like the adjustability of this right out of the box. So even if you don't mind this type of stock that has a ton of adjustability, don't feel like you need to go out and buy something else. It already comes with all the features, and it's one of those things where, I mean, rumor has it that there was a recon sniper guy or
Yeah,
some individual
Scout Sniper helped with the
design.
development of this rifle, so it's engineers with the end user from the field who helped to, put this thing into fruition.
Yeah, I mean that's something for me, especially for folks who watch this type of channel, are more of the, you know, honing their warrior skill sets, honing that type of trade craft in the field, and more of a combat type role. And so the fact that this has a lot of features with that in mind is huge, and especially we're going back to like the price point for all of this stuff that you get
Yeah,
out of the box, like
it's pretty. I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of features that to this day other bolt guns don't have, and to this day is still something that's highly attractive, at least for me. The mags being one of them. Like,
yeah.
and the comfort of carry and the folder and honestly just a lot of it.
Yeah. What are as far as so it did come with a muzzle brake, but it also had a locking collar on that muzzle brake. Have you actually shot it with the muzzle brake, and what are your thoughts on the device that it comes with?
Yeah. So we've got a 6.5 that has a muzzle brake on it, and it does a really good job of just reducing that recoil while you're shooting.
Yep.
The good thing too is it's a toolless muzzle brake too, so that's why it's the locking collar on there. So you can really get it timed perfectly.
Self-timing,
Yeah, and then just lock it in. No tools needed. Everybody's Loctite and wrenches and a couple cuss words,
Or
and you got
shims.
it in there. Well, with with the Ruger, it's just toolless, so
Right.
it's really nice.
And it doesn't require shims. I've actually taken that muzzle device and put it on other rifles I've had.
Wow.
Just to try it out and things like that, because it works. It works
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yep.
I actually have for this one, I took the device off specifically because I wanted to run suppress, so I put the Griffin Armament Dual Lock 7 on there with
Phenomenal suppressor.
Yeah, you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I have one.
I did a video on it, so you guys can go check that out. But what is a brief synopsis on your experiences with that suppressor specifically?
All right, so it's a seam welded style can. It's very lightweight. It's my favorite part about this is we have a seam welded design that has an EcoFlow going through it. The EcoFlow isn't necessarily like some of the other cans that have all the pressure that comes out, but it does help mitigate a little bit of that back pressure. But what it is mainly designed for, at least the way the guys over at Griffin Armament have explained it to both of us, was it helps to mitigate the excessive flash that comes out of here. So not only do we have a built-in flash hider on the front up here, but that EcoFlow and these ports out here help to diminish that flash just a little bit more. My favorite part about this is the QD/lockup style version here. So this does have a hub-centric design, so it centers that can as you are going into a direct thread. So a lot of guys know that direct thread is going to be the most accurate version, but since this has a concentric portion to it, it'll center up that can for more consistency, and that's what we want in long range. And then it has that direct thread portion. The cool part is that, and we'll do a close up here, you don't see any of that carbon going past that hub portion right there, which is a testament to the quality of this, that it is a tight fit and it doesn't gunk up those threads, making it easy to take on and off, right? So you guys don't have to, crank it on or like get two hands on there and rotate that thing. It's just, make it snug. And then we have these these teeth around the edge right there, and what that's for is just for this exterior locking collar. So some other companies have an interior collar that gets all gunked up, and then you gotta shoot them off, like kind of thing.
Some very famous suppressors.
Yeah, you gotta torpedo them. That just makes no sense. I've seen guys torpedo them off of a cliff before.
Really?
For some high angle shooting training.
Nice.
And Yeah, that's another funny story for
That's an
later.
experience.
But again, going back to this thing, it has this exterior locking collar, which is just a half turn to get that out. And what that collar does is it just prevents it from backing off. So going back to the previous thing I said, where all you got to do is just get it snug, doesn't have to be cranked on or super tight, and that locking collar prevents it from backing off as it gets warm, as you shoot, and all that good stuff. So go ahead and check them out. You know, if you use my name at the end, you'll be good. You'll be happy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like is in order to have this, I believe they call it a 60-degree throw. All right, so when it's the lift isn't all the way up right there. These are generally 3-lug style designs. This makes it extremely fast. So instead of you coming all the way up for a 2-lug design and then cranking it back and going forward, we have a 3-lug design, which means it's a much shorter throw. And then the cool part is that this has a long channel for the handle and the lugs so that you don't have that play where it binds it up per se.
Oh,
So
I've noticed.
on bolt guns, by design, they have a little bit of play because if it's too tight, then it's going to essentially stop working. Right? You get a little dirt, dust, debris, blah, blah, blah. You know, that'll bind up and go. So this helps you to stay linear as you're cycling through this, and it makes you quick. Right? So getting that next round ready to go is very, very fast on this thing. The next thing about it is that it's easy to take it out. You don't have to really do anything crazy. Having the folder there, you guys can take that out. There's a button on this back side right here, and then the whole thing pops out. On these newer versions, they put the aluminum on the back there. I think the original versions, they had a plastic one, and then it was very common for the first thing that guys would change is this back sleeve right here. And they do make weighted versions as well. That just helps to deaden the harmonics in there to make it smoother, and then also gives you a little bit more momentum as you're going through that process. So again, super nice, easy to clean, and then you can look down the bore, make sure everything's good, and bore sight and all that other stuff. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean that bolt's just nice and clean when you're throwing it. You know, when you're getting spicy on the range, you're just doing like multiple targets and stuff.
Rapid engagement.
Rapid engagements. It's just nice to know that it's consistent every time and it's a good feel and it's gonna go. You know, a lot of times, like Adrian was saying, you'll come back on a bolt gun and you'll feel that binding where you kind of just gotta jiggle your hand and go in. This thing is just gonna run consistently, and that's again the consistency of everything that we do is got to be solid, right?
Right.
So to make hits, it's got to be consistent. So
one of the things I also noticed about the bolt is the fact that there is a Allen slot on here, so that way you can actually take the knob off and replace it with a bigger knob or another custom knob.
More customizable.
More customizable. I think what's cool about this is that Ruger went in with this design, one, taking the experts in the field and having their input on this rifle specifically. So as far as ruggedized, reliable, accurate, and also extremely customizable. To me, that's a huge pro because everybody loves Glocks because you can run them and customize them. Everybody loves ARs because you can customize them. So the fact that they added all of those types of attributes into a bolt gun for a really affordable price, it's a testament to Ruger's forward thinking about what the shooter's going to want in the end. So
100%.
So I do have the Vortex Razor HD Gen 2 scope on here, and it's a really good scope. I have a video on this, actually. You can go check out, along with the American Defense Manufacturing scope rings. But as far as, you know, what are some good pieces of glass that you guys recommend for bolt guns for people who are getting into it, or maybe have an RPR that they're already running and they're looking for the next piece of glass?
For me, I'm going to recommend Leupold. Leupold has been in the military for a very long time, so it is tried and true and is rugged. HD glass, one of the original HD glass style optics out there, and it's still performing to this day. The you know, for guys that are going into that entry level, the models that I would look at is the new Mark IV line. So that line is going to be affordable, and it uses that high quality HD glass that you guys can we'll see when you go to any local store that has those optics there. If you want to step it up even more, go check out the Mark V. So the Mark V is a phenomenal optic as well. But if we're staying within the slightly more budget range of where this rifle is coming right off the shelf and you want a high quality optic to balance out with it, the Mark IV is definitely what I would take a peek at.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of people say like buy once, cry once. And that's kind of how I did when I first started too. But you know, the main thing is maybe meet up with your community, your buddies that shoot as well,
Mm-hmm.
and look at their glass, see what
Yes.
works for you. You know, just because this scope is, you know, $4,000 doesn't mean that it's going to be good for you. You know, case in point is, you know, just because the reticle is the one they like. There's so many different reticles you can choose from, right? So figure out what's cleared for you, what you're going to do with the rifle. If it's going to be for hunting, if it's going to be for PRS, or if it's going to be for another tactical mindset. If you're actually going to need all the information that's in that reticle, because you know you may not need it, and what's going to happen is some of that information in there might get in the way.
Right.
So you know, just really do your research, take your time. Don't just take somebody's word for buying a scope. You know, me personally, I like Night Force. I just saved
Yeah.
up, got my first Night
Good.
Force, and
It's a
that
good
was,
brand.
yeah, that was the one I like. Continue to stick with it. You know, thinking about moving to a few other ones like the Loophole with like the PR2 and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That thing's really super clear, so you can see trace when you're shooting. You know, when you start getting into like different reticles like the Tremor 3, it becomes difficult to see splash sometimes, depending on the environment. You know, of course, in the desert, you're going to see a little bit more, but foliage and stuff like that, you're starting to get these different information like wind dots and stuff that may curve that where you can't see anything. So, you know, Vortex got a great line too. Their eye boxes are nice, especially, you know, so you can kind of, they're more forgiving most times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, you know, all up to you. Just, I would say, just if you can rent, shoot behind your buddies' rifles and scopes and stuff like that, just see what works for you before you make a big purchase because they are expensive. They're super expensive. So typically they're about the cost of the rifle.
Well, and to jump onto that, just from the experiences that we're seeing in our classes, either somebody shows up with an optic that they think is gonna, you know, be what they're looking for, but then after going through the class, seeing the difficulties of different targets, or looking through somebody else's optic, then they start to play the regret game, and that's one of the heartbreaking things to see because you know somebody's excited, they want to go to the class, they want to perform, and then they have that instant regret of like, man, I really wish I would have just waited a little bit longer. And you know, us as guys with gear and stuff like that, we're all guilty of it. I get
Oh,
it.
yeah.
We're guilty of like, man, I want it now. I want it now and things like that. But you know, I highly encourage you guys, like, for, you know, for the Sidewinder courses specifically, let me know. Like, do not. I'd rather you not buy an optic and come to the class and then just rent one from me, right? I got plenty of loopholes that you guys can you can borrow for the course and you know have a high level of performance at the tail end of the course, and then you can make your call on what works for your budget and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and then you get to see some variety between you know some Night Forces, Vortex, and things like that that other guys have. So it's one of those just sure you could do the buy once cry once, or you know look through some different optics with your own eyes and test it out. Most of the guys, in, at least in the long range community, are very friendly and helpful because they know that it's a rough game to get into and it's pricey and nobody wants to play the experiment with your wallet game. I've already done that for you, so um, yeah, just come to shoot me an email. You guys can borrow the scopes in the classes. That's what they're for, and you guys can see what quality, like a version of high quality, looks like, and create your own judgment based off of a standard that you created from your own eyeballs at that point.
Right.
So
Yeah. So any final words of wisdom for the viewers about the Ruger Precision or anything related to long distance?
Anything?
yeah, I mean it's a great option if you guys are very AR oriented. So which I know a lot of guys are. This is a great platform. I have not seen one not perform extremely well. The RPRs that I've had in the past as student rifles have actually outperformed some of my other custom guns as far as accuracy goes, and it's a little confusing. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that one other than it just works.
Mm-hmm.
If you especially if you guys are guys that are coming from the AR world and dipping into the long range and trying to figure out what you want. This will fit the manual of arms that you are already used to, and it is still a phenomenal rifle. Like, and I'm honestly gonna probably get another one because it's just they work.
Maybe I'll get you in contact with Rupert.
Let's do it because I need another one in 6.5, not 308 this time.
Come on. Yeah, I'd say, you know, just get set up, you know, stay in your budget, don't get too crazy, and just get out and start denting some primers and meeting new people because, you know,
Yeah.
like we always talk about, it's about the community. You'll be surprised at like how the precision rifle community is, and on both sides, you know, as far as, you know, out there at matches and tactical side, you know, all sides. Like Adrian said earlier, you know, we've been through this. We've spent a ton of money and kind of made some regrets and wish we could. And sometimes we like to hand off that information to people that are starting out. That way they can kind of, you know, not make that big mistake, that expensive one.
One way that you can prevent making expensive mistakes is take training. So go check
Yeah.
out sidewinderconcepts.com. He has a full calendar of long-range training classes. And so that is the way. One, you're investing in yourself, which is the best investment you could ever have. And two, it's going to give you an idea of what works for you and what you need to look for after the course, and you have the tools equipped to be able to find what is best for you. So make sure you go to Adrian's website at sidewinderconcepts.com. Go check out his YouTube channel at Sidewinder Concepts, as well as on Instagram is also at Sidewinder Concepts.
Yeah.
So
Same
go
thing.
check him out.
Simple.
You got a big triangle right there.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Right,
You guys
yeah.
know.
I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Eric for an encouraging word. All right, guys, so hopefully you got something out of that video with Adrian and Nick talking about the Ruger Precision Rifle and a lot of the features that they have with that. You know, there was a story in actually Luke chapter 19 where there was a guy named Zacchaeus who had a lot of things. He had a lot of possessions and a lot of items. And what's really cool about this story is we kind of see the character of who Jesus is and the type of person that he was when he was here on earth. So whenever I am, you know, trying to emanate the Lord and trying to be like him in terms of being a servant, this is a good story that's a reminder for how we should have God in our lives. So here we go. He entered Jericho, which was a city, and was passing through, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich, and he was seeking to see who Jesus was. But on account of the crowd, he could not, because he was small in stature, so he was pretty short. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. So he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all grumbled. He has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I'm going to give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will restore it fourfold. And Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, since he is also a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. And what's really interesting about this story is that when I look at the character of Christ and who God hung out with, Jesus hung out with the sinners, man. He hung out with the people that were the outcasts of society. You know, tax collectors, who's a fan of the, you know, that one agency that takes all your money every year? And so having someone that was within that type of organization back then was not really a well looked upon individual, and people just scorned him and almost kind of back then viewed him as a traitor to the people. But God went out to the people who were the lowly people, the sinners, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the outcasts of this world, and he would go and minister to them. One of the Pharisees back in another portion of the Bible says, Why are you always hanging out with these people? He says, Because I haven't come to heal those who are well, but I've come to heal the sick. And so for me, I look in my life, who am I looking to reach? If there's someone maybe I don't agree with that has different ideas and views than me, how can I look at that person in a way where it's with compassion and with love and say, maybe there's something that we could connect on. Maybe there's something that we would have in common versus looking at everything that we don't have in common. And then I can love on them by, you know, being a servant to them, or, you know, providing them a meal, or inviting them over to my home to hang out, or you know, helping them with some yard work or something around the house, or maybe they're in financial stress and giving them some financial help. without looking for payment back, you know, not putting them into a loan per se, but just giving out of the goodness of your heart and not expecting anything in return. And when we do things like that, we can completely change the world, just like Jesus did with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus completely changed from that act of kindness and God recognizing him, where he says, I'm going to repay everyone back that I ever, you know, cheated out of money, and I'm going to do it fourfold. And so we can have that power by being obedient, and God can work in our lives to be a tool of hope to other people around us. So guys, make sure you go out and you are being loving to others. And also, if you are someone who doesn't know who Jesus is, Jesus loves you, man. He has been waiting your entire life to reach you. You know, there's times where I thought, man, I'm too far gone. I've done some really bad things in my life. But God has come to save the sinners. He's come to save those who are lost. Why? Not because he wants to give you, I told you so, but because he truly cares about you like a father and a child. And he wants you to come back home to him so he can love on you and give you blessings and pour out his love all over your family and your life. So guys, look out to see if you can serve other people, train to be the eternal asset, and I will see you on the next one.